And in the very beginning, the glory filled everything. That's the way that God created the universe. Everything stretched out at the Big Bang, and the glory was intended to fill the entire universe and all the people, all the beings that God had made. It says there's a glory unto all things. There's a glory in all plants and animals. So it has its purpose in the earthly, the realm of the physical realm, and it has its eternal purpose. It says everything is interconnected in that eternal realm in the glory, and that's the glory of all plants and animals. As you go through the 6 days, you really start to see that there's a harmony, there's a rhythm, and there's a pattern to God's design and pattern of creation, from the plants to the flying animals, slowly leading up to mankind, which is God's ultimate plan, which was to dwell in the glory with his children. It says in the New Testament, Adam was the son of God. Adam was fully formed by God in the creation, in that mud of the earth, the dust, the evolutionary soup, as they call it, of the earth, where God, literally the Spirit of God overshadowed the planet and entered into the mud, and began to form the cellular life on the planet Earth, where you have really a miracle happening. God, something turning into how does something matter turn into a living organism? How does mud turn into a butterfly, or into a fish swimming around in the ocean, and then into a monkey and into a human? I mean, this is mind blowing. We're animated by the Spirit of God, by the Word of God, and living in something that's made up of mud. The same exact molecules of mud and of the earth is actually found in the body and in every type of animal. This is just, it's a miracle. Just the existence of life at all is a miracle, and that's something that everyone should recognize. It talks about, the glory of God is recognizable by all people. Everyone has a natural inclination to wonder about nature and how we got here and how mankind got here, and it's intuitive to everyone that there's something enveloping us and there's something all around us, and a lot of people don't know what that is. People have been on this search for truth and for thousands of years. When they wrote the Vedas and the Buddhist teachings and all these different teachers and philosophies, and um, you know leading up to ultimately to Abraham, where Jehovah revealed himself to Abraham and shared the original story of man naturally living in the earth, and how the glory of God filled everything and everything was alive and living with the glory. At the sixth day, when they were living in Eden, in that perfect bubble of glory, man and woman meant to have the nuclear family. Everyone full of the glory all around the planet Earth. There could have been billions and billions of people living in total glory in the Middle East and in Mesopotamia and Eden. None of the sin had to happen. None of this, all the bad stuff didn't have to happen. Where murder happened and war and empires started happening, um, as a part of the potential that God allowed for the free will to exist. There's also that potential for things to go wrong, things to go awry, things to go haywire, and that's where God allowed it, because out of love and out of free will. And God says, it says how all we like sheep have gone astray, from that perfect pin, and the sheep that stray need their shepherd. We need the shepherd. We needed the shepherd to come. We needed David. We needed, because David took the sling and threw it, and tried to stop all the wolves from getting to the sheep, because the sheep doesn't know. We like sheep have gone astray, and so the sheep needs a shepherd. The true sheep, the true innocent one, the true purity can become tarnished, can become lost. The purest sheep is the most vulnerable to the darkness, and into the wolf and to the lions. And David ran into that cave, to save the one sheep from the 99, the 99 in on the hill. He ran after the one, and ripped the mouth of the lion open and pulled the sheep out. And that was before he fought Goliath. He told the story of that, how they said, you're not a warrior, you're not trained in warfare, but he said, I have a heart that is unquenchable. He said, stormed into the cave, into the mouth of the lion, where David could have died. David acting as the shepherd, the good shepherd, like Jesus Christ, who came into the earth and entered into mankind, entered into the womb, entered into the life of this world, into the cave, into the depths of life, and felt life, and to save the lost sheep of the whole world. It says that God desires that none should perish. God, just like David, who's a man after his own heart, David, in the same way, he David emulated that same heart that God has, and that nothing would stop him from saving even the dead, even the lost and the dying, and even those from death. The lion had already swallowed the sheep. David's pulling the sheep, ripped apart out of this lion, and to me, that I'm representing the mouth of the devil, the mouth of death, the destruction. And God desires that no one should perish. He's the parable of the talents, where he's sweeping the floor for all the lost coins. He doesn't want to give up on that one coin. He's sweeping all the dark shadows and dark webs and dark corners of the whole world, the whole entire floor, to find this one lost coin, or like David running into that cave to find the one lost sheep, the sheep that truly went astray, that needs that shepherd. And so it's a symbolic representation of Christ coming and saving all of mankind. And he went into the depths of hell. Even it says Jesus went down into the depths of hell for 3 days, and he brought the good news to all the dead, to all those who had died from Adam up unto all the way to Moses, and to Jesus, all the people that had died and were in the place of Hades and death. Jesus went out through all of time, through all the past, all the souls of all the lost and dying, and he brought the good news. And that's the purest love that surpasses all understanding. It's not some logical God is at that point acting in an irrational way, in a way that is not self containing and not self-preservation. David putting his whole life on the line to go for that sheep, to save that sheep. And God is that kind of love, where David danced, before in the glory of God, danced completely till all his clothes came off and all things were naked. And just as the sight and the glory of God, where all things are open and naked before him. And it says, Adam and Eve were completely naked in the glory of God in Eden, fully living naturally in the presence of God. There was no shame. There was no shame of their pure and true nature, because they were full of the glory of God. The Spirit of God was flowing through everything and flowing through all people. And so there was nothing impure, nothing lustful, nothing lustful about the body, nothing impure about the body, no diseases, no sick, none of that stuff even existed. It's only come from the fallen nature and fallen circumstances in nature. And so it's now, God, just in his full capacity, is wanting to save the entire world. The glory of God to fill the earth as the waters cover the sea. The whole entire planet Earth would be full of the glory of God, as it was meant to be. This is the true nature. This is the nature all people actually desire, all people are chasing after. People are chasing after all sorts of vain imaginations, drug, prostitution, drugs, addictions, all sorts of things that are fleeting and chasing, and those dark depths of their imagination and of the mind. And that's what God's actually trying to fill. That's what the glory of God wants to, go in there and fill all that doubt, all that depth, all that darkness, all those places where people are separated from God in their inner man. And that's the bright morning star rising in the heart, is that where the glory has actually risen up. He says, I will lead them to springs of living water flowing up out of them. And that's the spring of the living waters coming up out like an Eden contained in Eden bubble around us in the glory, and that glory is fully present and one with God. So that is to sit on the heaven throne in the heavenly place with Jesus at the right hand of the Father. And that is the throne of David. That is the place of peace, the heavenly Jerusalem coming down out of heaven to be one with man, so that man is not separate from God the Father. Man is no longer just distant and separate, and that's simply by a place of inner reality, inner realization, inner transcendence, realizing the glory of God is fully with you. The kingdom of heaven is all around us, as Jesus said. It just takes someone to realize it. It just takes someone to see the pearl of great price and to take it in and realize it. And the tiny faith, the tiny belief, the mustard seed that just keeps on expanding and growing, never ending presence and glory of God throughout the whole entire multiverse, the whole universe, the whole extent of everything that can ever exist in any capacity comes from God, and all eternal realms, all eternal heavens or earth or any galaxy or anything even of the imagination has no limit. It says that God has shown will show things in heaven that no man has ever even imagined or could even think of. So there's no limit to it, and that's the ultimate desire of God, that all people would be in union with Him. That Jesus said, "This is the will of the Father, that they might know God the Father, might fully know Him." And then knowing that is being in total oneness, knowing not just in the mind, but surpassing into the being itself, knowing a full, complete trust, full, complete love. God is love, and love conquers all things. And so the goal is that love would fill every being and fully, and be completely at one with God, 24/7, all day, every day, throughout now and eternity.